The next item tonight is an invitation from Latah County Commissioners to comment on the Upper Lochsa land exchange, and I see that I am presenting that. So I know that you received a memo from me today giving the rationale for why I think the city is justified in providing comments as requested by Latah County Commission Chair Jennifer Barrett at our joint meeting last week. We also received some written comments from some interested citizens. We had people who were in the audience, I think, tonight, perhaps, to comment on that issue. But, you know, Moscow is part of this regional economy, and a piece of that is recreational tourism. A piece of it is the quality of life considerations that expanses of open space provide us. And some of the land being considered in this situation is within Latah County, and it would be a loss to our county with no gain of land. The land being proposed for exchange, in fact, is in the Lochsa River drainage at the Idaho-Montana border up near Powell, so it's far removed from Moscow. And while it might appeal to some of our elk hunters in the community, those who are anxious to go on day hikes or cross-country skiing or something on national forest land, I think would lose out on this. So part of the regional economy, and I think that makes a difference. We have plenty of precedents for economic participation between the city and county, and I highlighted those in the memo, but they include things like our parkland maintenance, the brownfields redevelopment, the solid waste management, water planning, and other. So we recognize that the recreational opportunities are not confined by jurisdiction. And so we have a couple of fine examples here pretty close to us with the Chipman Trail and the Latah Trail, and we are very supportive of those. The other piece of it is that the some 39,371 acres that are being proposed for exchange by the Western Timber Company are in fact heavily logged. They have been so for the last 50 years. They're certainly deserving of some restoration efforts, but those restoration efforts would then be borne by the collective tax-paying body. Western Pacific Timber in exchange then would receive the timberland that is not, as the other property is, predisposed to erosion, mass wasting, or increased sediment delivery. I think the simple reason that the Board of County Commissioners asked us is a good rationale for our providing input. The county stands to lose 2,610 acres and change of national forest land. And I think it is telling that the retired foresters who have tended that land for so many years, who live in our communities in Latah County, are opposing this exchange. We heard at that meeting, our joint meeting last week, and we all received via email from Marilyn Beckett a statement to the fact that our comments to the draft environmental impact statement from the Forest Service need not be judgmental, that we can just simply weigh in with some general comments and still establish standing, legal standing, such that we could be part of an appeal if it comes to that at a later date. However, the recommendation, even within the environmental impact analysis and the process involved with the statement, recommends that comments be as specific as possible so that the Forest Service responsible official can address those things, and so that the final environmental impact statement is as specific as it can be in addressing the concerns of the stakeholders who have weighed in during this comment period as contemplated by law. So they asked us to be specific, and I did include some particulars that you may wish to include if the council so chooses to weigh in as a body. Among those, in addition to those points that I cited before about the quality of the land proposed for exchange, and that sort of thing, would be that the range of alternatives offered in the draft EIS are too narrow for the scope of action, that the alternatives that would consolidate the disconnected properties in the Upper Lochsa should also address the concerns about diminishing our local public lands. There were concerns expressed by the retired foresters that specifically said Chapter 3 in the draft statement lacks consistent analysis methodology and clear explanation of projected outcomes. That is to say, this document may be substantively and perhaps legally inadequate, and that's a good reason to ask them to go back to the drawing board and address those specific concerns. The draft impact environmental statement seems to focus more on that property, the privately held property by Western Pacific Timber in the Upper Lochsa, than on the public lands being proposed for exchange, and doesn't really address the related implications for the local economic justice in our communities. You listening, gentlemen? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Social equity concerns that are some communities being disenfranchised in this process. Are they maybe not prepared to weigh in on this sort of thing, and unaddressed environmental impacts that could be associated with the changes of land use. So the final statement should, in fact, be comparable analyses for both sides of the equation, not just the privately held property at this point. The draft environmental impact statement does fail to address the cost to the public, and costs may not be able to be considered in economic terms in a document like that. There are some restrictions about how they can address the cost, but what are the maybe perhaps environmental costs to changing productive timberland for the intensively logged parcels that are in such need of restoration and ongoing management and distant from our locations? And finally, that I think some of you may have found, as I did, that descriptions and maps in the draft document were somewhat unclear, and it's kind of difficult to discern where these properties are and actually how they are connected. So I hope for those reasons the Council will choose to weigh in as specific a fashion as possible on the draft environmental impact statement to establish standing for the city, as we anticipate the county will do, and specifically because our Latah County Commissioners asked us to do so. And I'm certainly happy to respond to questions, and I suspect we may have some people who are present tonight who'd like to speak to it. Walter?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. At last Wednesday's joint meeting with the county commissioners, I did not hear a specific request from the county commissioners that we comment. They seemed to bring Ms. Beckett, I think it was, email. And one of the things that I questioned about that email was her statement that comments made after March 9 would not, unless comments were made prior to March 9, the person making the comment would lose standing for an appeal. Our city attorney, subsequent to that meeting, sent an email, I believe, to everybody that said, yes, that is the case. So that satisfies my question about March 9 or not. I said also at the time at the meeting that I was blissfully ignorant of this whole thing and had worked very hard to stay that way because I wasn't real sure why I wanted to care. We've got everything else in the world to worry about. My ignorance and my bliss have started going away as I've gotten more and more material on this, which I will admit I have not totally read. The record on this thing is huge. I would have no problem with the council possibly co-signing a county letter. I want to see what it said as one way to do this. Another thing that I personally would not have a problem with would be some type of general statement so that we do maintain that standing that's been pointed out to us apparently exists. The one thing in your list of bullets where you talk about possible specifics, are the maps in our packet, are these from the EIS?
Stephanie?
on the webpage for the exchange, that's
Well-
all the maps that they have there. So they aren't directly from that document.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say that if they were, I would certainly agree that they are unclear, making it difficult to discern locations of scattered public and private parcels, because I can't even tell these things are in what state they're in. But if they're not in the EIS, I guess that's not pertinent. But anyway, that's kind of where I am on this. I'm getting educated, I'm learning about it. I have no problem keeping our boat afloat and getting an oar in the water. But in terms of which exact rock we're supposed to steer away from, I don't know enough yet to do that. Thank you, ma'am.
So in response to your first point, Walter, because I wanted to make it explicit to the county commissioners, I said to Jennifer Barrett at that joint meeting, so are you asking the city to comment on this, on the draft EIS? And she said, I certainly hope you will, or we certainly hope you will. So she was pretty clear, I think, in that.
I talked to her today, and I'm not going to argue the point. I didn't get that solid an answer from her when I talked to her today, but I'm certainly willing, as a single voter up here to vote, to submit some type of general comment to keep our place in line.
Okay, and for the request for comments on the Upper Lochsa Land Exchange, as noticed, it says, and I quote, "It is important that reviewers provide their comments at such times and in such a way that they are useful to the agency's preparation of the EIS. Therefore, comments should be provided prior to the close of the comment period and should clearly articulate the reviewer's concerns and contentions. The submission of timely and specific comments can affect a reviewer's ability to participate in subsequent administrative review or judicial review." So that's why I'm asking that the council weigh in on the specifics. And you may not have to choose the ones I recommend verbatim, but I hope that you will consider that if we, as Latah County residents, want the Forest Service, the reviewers of the draft EIS to address specific concerns, that we say so in so many words. Dan?
Personally, I have my own opinion about the whole mess, and maybe that states it right there. That honestly, I don't think that the exchange should go on at all, because what's our hurry? If this public lands, what's our hurry at all to if the Forest Service wants the Western Pacific timberlands, wait till the economy is better and we can afford them. But that's beside the point. I think Walter's idea of us co-signing on to what the county puts forward is probably the best plan, because they've been dealing with this from the beginning, and I think rather than us trying to hammer something together in the next 2 days, I think we could probably be agreeable to what they're deciding to put forward, and us as co-signing along with them, I think is probably the most. It'll keep our foot in the door, if nothing else, and in that way we're not trying to put something together, not being repetitive to whatever they're saying as well. And I appreciate the work you went to putting together what you did, but again, they've been monitoring this for a lot longer than we have, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So that's why I think that, like Walter said, let's hitch our wagon to their team, I guess, is a good way to put it.
Well, there have been a number of letters to the editor and a couple of very good editorials in the Daily News. There's another one in there today. Randy, I have a question for you about the city's establishing standing on a co-signed letter. Would that require then that both entities appeal or not? Or would it require that we have no autonomous function in an appeal process?
Well, I think if you both signed, your separate governmental entities, in my opinion, but I'm not a judge, is that you would still have your own separate entity right to appeal. An easy way to resolve that, though, is if you wanted to, rather than co-sign, you could just mirror the language of the Latah County and write a separate one, then there'd be no question. that you have the same opinion, but you've filed separately, and that retains your identity in a very easy, simple way.
Tom?
I was going to just make the suggestion.
Mirror there.
The mirror theirs, or at least closely resemble, their comments. I mean, I think we can pull from them, but there's some good stuff that's within this memo that we received from you as well. So I'm fine with those comments also.
Tim?
Has Latah County authored their reply?
Well, they hadn't as of the time of our joint meeting last week. They intended to, and so I don't know if they have one yet. See if Stephanie has heard anything from your counterpart with the county.
Kara indicated to me that they were going to work on it today, and when it was done, she would email it to me.
Okay, and you haven't received that yet?